Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Back in the studio for another episode of DubCast. As a quick reminder, twice a month we'll chop it up with some of the industry's top sports handicappers, and this week is no exception. We are absolutely thrilled to welcome to the studio the red-hot ViggyBets. Follow him on Twitter at Viggy, V-I-G-G-Y, Bets, B-E-T-S. Viggy, first of all, congratulations on being on one of the great heaters of 2022 thus far. Second of all, say hello to all the listeners at home. I know people are really eager to hear your story.
Appreciate you, Lewis, having me on. Honored to be here. Hope everybody's doing well. I know we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, so excited for the weekend. College basketball galore coming up. Now that the Super Bowl's over, now that the NFL season's over with, we can finally focus on college basketball. And that gets me excited.
So you are the college basketball master. I want to chop up some stats just to kind of do a little bragging on your behalf on the start of the show. So we're taping this Friday, Feb 18. This will probably go out next week. But as of this taping, overall, the CBB Viggy model, 73, 38, and 2. You're 12, 9, and 1 over your last 7. Why has everything been hitting so beautifully thus far in the season?
Well, let's introduce the Viggy model real quick, and
even before we, it's probably famous already, but
let's
give the.
Let's give it a little breakdown first of what it is, and other than a terribly chosen name, need a little more creativity on my end, but it is pretty much an overall summary projected model of every single game's total range of what, on the low end and on the high end, of what the expected total outcome will be in terms of points. So there's going to be a low end, there's going to be a high end, and I take that model and I compare it to the Vegas lines, and if there's a discrepancy either way, whether it's over or under, the model will decide if there is a play in that regard. So it is a model regarding the over or under for every college basketball game.
Fantastic. And so first of all, one of my favorite parts about this podcast is seeing the different approaches that handicappers have, right? Because as I tell my friends all the time, like, there's more than one way to skin a cat and to be profitable in this business, right? There are trend bettors that are really successful over long term. There are kind of public-oriented, more I would say traders who like to read line movement and all that stuff that are really successful over time. And then there's this kind of, what I would call you is kind of a fundamental investor, right? You're finding value and where you think stuff is mispriced versus Vegas. Mm-hmm. So how did you develop this approach? Maybe give us a bit of the Viggy origin story, because you need to be a very analytical person to spin up a model that is so profitable like the Viggy model has been. But give us a bit of a peek behind the curtain in terms of A, how you got into capping, and B, how you developed this really sophisticated and analytical approach.
So almost a year ago, I created my Twitter account. I initially called it the Viggy Parlay because I was just trying to put some parlays out there that, I wanted to feel like I would hit, and B, that, I could flaunt a little bit. And I did pretty well at the beginning. I won 2 of 3, and I was starting to get a little traction out of that. But then, as you can understand and imagine, parlays don't hit a lot. They're very low percentage bets. So I got a little bit into a rut there and had to refocus and rebrand myself. And that's where ViggyBets went into play. It's like, why don't I just, instead of doing parlays, let's just do single bets. Let's put the analysis out there. Let's be a little bit different than your everyday capper out on Twitter who just gives you the plays and no context about it. So that was my kind of way of trying to be a little bit different. And then, of course, the transparency level is the most important with regards to capping is, not just putting the plays out there and putting out your reasons behind them, but also how did it play out. So those are 3 methods that I took in wanting to create my account, which was early April of 2021, right before the baseball season. So kind of gaining a new opportunity with the baseball season, and then going from there.
You touched on a couple things there, one of which that I think is really unique about your approach is transparency first, and not just post-game, right? Like, obviously, all great cappers grade out recaps all the time and are not hiding anything, blah, blah, blah. But you're also showing kind of when you place a bet, kind of the ranges of where it makes sense and where to maybe get away. What kind of feedback do you get from subscribers? Because a lot of feedback we get is, I couldn't get the line here, or it moved a bit, should I still play? I feel like your feed in particular is really teaching a subscriber how to fish and kind of where the ranges of value makes sense. So, A, why did you kind of think this was the right approach as opposed to just spitting out outputs? And B, kind of what feedback do you get from folks who are becoming better, smarter, more educated bettors because of the analysis you give?
I think if you put a bet out there, and it doesn't have to be just college basketball, it can be anything. It can be NFL, or it could be NBA or NHL, whatever. You don't, especially if you don't have any credibility out there, or you're new to the game, you need to have a reasoning as to why you're betting it. And I will never put a bet out there that I wouldn't bet myself. So that's another thing. And there's cappers out there that unfortunately would put bets out there that they wouldn't themselves do. So for me, it's about putting the bet out there, putting the reasons why I'm doing it, in-depth analysis, and then that in-depth analysis, whether it hits or whether it doesn't hit, will serve as evidence as to why I'm going with the play. And if it hits, it serves as, it was, yes, that was it. Or the reasoning could be totally different and it still hits. But for the most part, the analysis out there will make someone feel better about putting the play, on their books and tailing or whatnot. Or if it didn't hit, but we came up short, the reasoning was spot on, the analysis was spot on, but it just came up a little short. So it either A, reaffirms the play because it hit and the analysis was spot on, or B, we came up just short, but the analysis was there and we nearly had it. So either way, like if it hits, great. If not, well, here's the reasoning for the bet. It came up short, but I'm not just putting, random bets out there for people to tail, and if they don't hit, then they come back at me. So.
And you're a really great writer. Like, we talked at the start of the pod about like the different approaches to capping, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. One big variable that we come across is this a person who has, an extensive write-up that accompanies their plays, or are they just spitting out outputs, kind of somewhere in between? And I find most of the time when you have these model-oriented bettors like yourself, it's not coming with a write-up. But you're kind of creating the best of both worlds, where there's the model that kind of gives you the guidance as to the play itself, but also the rationale, the evidence, as you like to put it, so that people can feel confident that this is a well-researched play that's supported both qualitatively and quantitatively.
Exactly, and I think that my journalism background helps.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And I think it's super interesting.
So that definitely helps, and I have a lot of experience with, kind of that journalistic style approach in terms of the writing, which I think helps and allows my clients and subscribers to really understand where I'm coming from, right? And I always, with my Viggy model plays, will always say where the Viggy model projected range is at the end, but I always give my in-depth analysis before that so they understand exactly, what the trends are, what the approach to why I'm taking this bet, because it's not just about what the model says. I have to still feel comfortable taking it. I'm not going to blindly pick a play just because of what the model says. The model serves for me as a tool to compare to what Vegas shows, and I'm seeing if Vegas is off. And if Vegas is off, am I off, or is Vegas off? So I'm looking at the historical data, the historical matchups of each game. If the data is, if Vegas is off by 10 points, I want to know why before I lock it in. So if I see that I believe Vegas is off, I'm going to find my reasonings, and I'm going to put it in my in-depth analysis, and I'm going to show what the model is, and I'm going to cash the bet.
I love it. And when we talk to model-oriented cappers, there's kind of like the known unknowns, right? And the data that's feeding the model. And then there's some stuff that a model just misses. Like if someone is a late scratch because of COVID protocol or something like that. Like, how do you think, I mean, you've already touched on it in terms of like using the model as a tool, but as you work through a card and you start to see where you may be able to extract some value, like what are the key variables you're sanity checking in your brain as you kind of make sure that you're using the model as a tool and not as a mandate to make a play, and kind of going that one level deeper and actually having the analysis on top of it?
Right, I do look at injuries, but to be honest with you, injuries aren't a huge barometer in terms of me deciding whether I'm going to make a play or not. In fact, if anything, injuries, especially in college basketball, could enhance the Vegas line. I'll give you an example. Let me find my paper over here. I'll give you two of my favorite college basketball teams to bet on in terms of the model this year, the total model, and just the consistency of how well we've done over at LSU. And the reasoning with LSU is because two of their leading scorers, especially Xavier Pinson, were out for an extended period of time due to injury, which I believe really Vegas took that into consideration. You know, averaging double-digit points per game, thinking that the total that LSU wouldn't be able to score as much, they bring that total down. And I said, hold on here a minute. LSU is deeper beyond Xavier Pinson. They're still averaging this X amount per game without him. They're averaging this amount at home. They're averaging this amount on the road. And here's what the model tells me. And I'm getting a, say, 5 or 6 point difference from Vegas. I'm playing this as an over because I believe LSU will still contribute to the scoring that they need to do to cash this over with the other team. So LSU, the Viggy model's 5-2 with total bets for them this season. Texas Tech is another one. You know, they average more than 80 points per game at home. Vegas doesn't take that into account. I'm 7-3 doing Texas Tech Red Raider basketball games. So there's teams that I frequent a lot that I like to check up on more so than others with the Viggy model. Another one I like a lot, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas A&M, kind of a lot of SEC and Big 12 teams, to be brutally honest with you, come out a lot on the Viggy model. And I think they tend to be more overs than they are unders because Vegas just doesn't believe that there's going to be as many points scored in those games, where in actuality there are. LSU being, like I said, LSU, TCU being another one. So there's a lot of teams that provide value on multitude of levels, multiple levels. So it's kind of funny how that works out in that way.
So a couple really interesting kernels of wisdom there that I'd like to double click on. One is just this idea of Vegas kind of over-indexing to injuries, and you know, college basketball it's not the NBA in terms of depth of talent, but these are deep rosters. They can still put up points even when key guys go down. The other thing that I'd like to talk to you about is, you know, you're a total better all over the board, and typically full game totals. We see a lot of cappers index more towards first half totals. Why is the full game total where you like to play, and is it kind of complementary with the idea of like this notion that Vegas has certain attributes that it overprices, and that plays out over a full game where it may not in one half?
So the vast majority of I won't say vast majority, I'd say about 75 to 80% of my plays, and this is just a rough estimation, are overs, not unders. So for me, the only time I would consider, just for me personally, that I would consider a first half bet would be an underplay. And it's funny because a few of my unders, if I would have picked the first half bet, would have lost, but the full game bet under actually cashed. So for me, the first half is just as risky as a full game bet. In fact, for me, it's actually riskier because I found out that, when I pick an over, say we have an over 140, I'll have two teams put up 55 points in the first half, and I go look and I say, wow, this is not looking good at all. How are these teams going to get to 140? And then the second half, teams below go crazy offensively. There's a ton more free throws. There's a lot more fast-paced in the second half action. So for me, I never judge a total bet over or under, for that fact, based on the first half, because the second half brings a lot more action, a lot more suspense, and oftentimes you'll see for unders, the first half could be crazy. There's a lot of points scored in the first half, but then the tempo slows down in the second half. So for me, the second half tells more of a story than the first half, in my opinion. I've seen overs that look terrible in the first half end up cashing, and I see unders where I'm picking the under 150. They score 85 points in the first half, and the under actually cashes. So for me, a basketball game over-under bet in the first half doesn't tell the whole story. So that's why I usually stick with the full game.
Super interesting. Maybe transition now quickly. MLB hopefully is around the corner, right? God only knows if the players union and the owners get their act together or not. I think a lot of people who know you historically know you as the NRFI guy, the no-run first inning. For maybe NRFI novices, explain to those listeners, A, what the bet is and how you got introduced to it. I think it's a super fun prop and rewards those with short attention spans and really popular. So give the 60-second pitch to newbies.
Yeah, I was new to it last year myself. I had no idea what the bet was. April 1st last year, I had no idea what the bet was. And I'm like, what is NRFI? So then when you break it down, it's no-run first inning, and it is a no-run first inning for both teams. Like, it has to be scoreless going to the top of the second inning. Both teams have to fail to score in the first inning. So really what it comes down to is it's about a 25 to 30-minute sweat. You talk about going to the gym, you talk about going on the treadmill, or, the stepping exercise for 30 minutes. I don't think it gives you the same effect as watching a 25 to 30 minute NRFI. It is the sweatiest, most epic bet of your life, because one pitch can ruin it. One pitch, a fly ball to right field into the Yankee Stadium bleachers, and it's over with. So it really is, you're leaning on every single pitch, where if you're betting an F5 or a full game, you got to wait about 2 to 4 hours, depending on what that bet is, to see it cash or not. And sometimes it's a blowout either way, so there's no suspense to it. So I love the no-run first inning. I'm huge on it. To be honest with you, the first half, I was kind of struggling last year. I was hitting at about 52.5%, 53%.
Which is not so bad.
Which is not so bad.
That's you struggling.
For me. It's just barely getting by for me, but I took the All-Star break, because it was about a week or so, to really kind of hone in. What can I do to improve my metrics from an NRFI standpoint? What is the secret sauce here? And for me, you always just have to look at pitching. For me, I don't care who's batting first, second, or third, or fourth, or fifth, or whatever. The lineups are going to change every single day, but the constant is how the pitcher performs. Can I trust the starting pitcher in the first inning that particular day. And that's what my Viggy chart is, what I dub it. Again, very creative, right? I'm taking applications for my coordinating position here. I could use some creativity in my life. But nonetheless, it really factors into the pitcher, not the hitter. So I need to have both pitchers. I need to trust both pitchers to be able to make the play. And when I fortified that, when I unveiled it, I was like 18 out of my first 22. It was nuts.
Wow.
But it ended up cashing at 63% for the rest of the season, beyond the All-Star break to the end of the season. So for the season, I cashed about 55% of my NRFIs when you average out the whole entire season. But when the Viggy chart was released, when I fortified my chart and my system, I was cashing about 63% of my NRFIs. So I'm hoping, we're always going to have to make adjustments. Players switch teams, so teams are, a bit different now and everything. And we'll have to do the same thing for college basketball next year. But the system remains the same, That's what we're going to look at for this season. So I would love to be able to cash just as 65 to 70% like we are on the Viggy model for college basketball. So that is the crux of my subscription. You're going to get the Viggy model for college basketball, and you're going to get, whenever the baseball season starts, you'll get my NRFI plays that really were the crux of why I got my following. I got a huge following that was really based on the NRFIs. So I'm hoping that when baseball season starts, you guys will come and join me, and we're gonna cash a lot of these NRFIs.
Super exciting. And the thing that background on yourself, like you were free for a long time, picks just given out through Twitter. Start Dub Club not too long ago, really to start 2022, and
right.
Pricing is like insanely competitive, like $9.99 in this industry for a month of plays that are hitting at 65% is absurd. Why did you think this was the right approach as you're kind of making the leap to really turning this into a business for yourself, while also making it
right.
super affordable? Like, you don't have to be a $1,000 unit better. You don't have to be a $100 unit better. You could be a $5 unit better,
right.
and $10 a month, it pays for itself pretty darn quickly. So just talk about why that was the right strategy for you, and how you can create so much value for your subscribers to find CLV in college basketball season by texting stuff out in real time, or just getting plays out with the crazy schedule that is MLB and NRFI season.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I do other sports as well. I'm huge on college football. I'm really good at college football. Had a so-so season in the NFL. Hope to improve that in 2022, 2023. And I do NBA from time to time and whatnot. So I do other sports as well, but my go-tos are college basketball and baseball. And when I created my account back in April, I really just wanted to create a following, wanted to build a base, wanted to build a trustworthy base, right? I wanted to prove myself as one of the most transparent and deeply analytical gambling Twitter guys out there. And I feel like that I was doing it so much that I was kind of compromising my time away from personal things, and I either had to look at it from a financial standpoint, or I had to really kind of back off of it. And I love doing this. I love it's a huge passion of mine, sports betting and coercing with everybody on Twitter and really building my brand. So I had to really make that jump to monetizing my time. And my thought process was, I feel like I have to reprove myself again. I feel like, I created a new account and I have to bring in, those people, because I know that a lot of people just followed me for my free picks and they may not be interested in signing up for a, subscription, or, they have subscriptions to so many other things. Why add me, right? So I feel like I had to reprove myself. So I feel like I've done that really, really well. I wanted to make it affordable for everybody because, frankly, I want as many people as possible to hop on board. This is Viggy Nation. It's not going to stay $9.99 forever. There's what's called inflation, and that will, alter prices moving forward. But my goal is to only do that once a year. So I've already set my price for 2022, so we'll reevaluate in 2023. So basically, signing up this year, you'll get the entire year. Rest of 2022 at $9.99 a month, or $99.99 for the rest of the year if you sign up now. So, for me, it's about creating a space for everybody. Like you said, the $1,000 unit better or the $10 unit better. I'm a $10 unit better myself. I'll put $100 on my NRFIs because I'm so confident. But, for everything else, I'm a $10 better. So I can relate to the $10 better. So I want them on my side, and we're just all going to grow together.
You're one of the true good guys in the industry. You've built kind of your following the right way, and NRFI or not, I think you're in the first inning of your career, and you're cashing a lot of tickets, and we're just so pleased to have you as part of the Dub Club ecosystem, and thank you so much for coming on. Super fun interview. Everybody go follow this man, because college basketball season is in fever pitch right now. Baseball's around the corner. It's $10 a month. There's no reason not to. And ton of great analysis and winning at an insane clip. So, Viggy, always a pleasure, and won't be too long before we have you back in the studio.
Appreciate you, Lewis and team. Love you guys. You guys have been a huge gift for me in terms of really being able to get my business going, and I couldn't appreciate you guys more. Thank you so much.